All right, we'll go ahead and get started, everyone. Thank you for being here in our Bloom with Zoom Housing Edition. I'll start off by introducing myself and my co-host. I am Mark Turnbow. I'm the Assistant Director of Residence Life in the Office of Residence Life here at Bloomsburg University. And I am joined here by Jen Turnbow, who is one of our area coordinators here. So she's going to be helping kind of moderate and keep me organized in this presentation. If you have any questions or anything throughout, please don't hesitate to use the question and answer function or the chat function, and we will make sure we get to those questions. So I just kind of want to begin. We're glad you're here. So welcome. We're here to talk about living on campus. For students, this is hopefully home away from home. And I think kind of the first piece we want to talk about a little bit is what our plans are for fall. The last year and a little bit has been wild for all of us, across the world, but certainly here on campus as well. And we've had a lot more virtual classes. We've had most of the fall semester was a virtual semester. While we did have some folks living on campus, we haven't had, the full robust campus life experience. Our hope going into next fall is that we will have a quote unquote normal semester, or at least as close to normal as possible. Our plan is that academics will be very much face-to-face, with the exception of planned distance learning, planned virtual and hybrid classes, but not forced virtual classes. As we look at campus life and part of being a student here on campus, we want that to be a very much an in-person, face-to-face type of experience, and so that you all as students can be actively engaged in our campus life. And to be honest, as a staff member that works in campus life, we can't wait for that. We're really hungry for that and really want to get back to some sense of normalcy. When we talk about housing, that means that we're going to be at full occupancy. We've got most of our spaces that you all will be living in are double rooms. We'll talk about our facilities here in a little bit. And so if it's designed to have two people in the room, our plan is to have two people in the room. There most likely will still be some masking and social distancing going on campus. We will throughout the summer, along with our health center folks and, Pennsylvania Department of Health and Centers for Disease Control, all those recommendations, we will come up with exactly what our campus plan looks like. I guess, unfortunately, maybe, but fortunately also in this scenario, we've had a lot of experience of last year trying to figure out what might work and how to have those best things. So as we look into something more normal, I just want to give a heads up that there could be some limitations on visitation, as well as some of those requirements in certain areas of campus. But we will absolutely communicate that as we go. But our hope is to be as normal as possible, kind of as we move forward. Okay, so we are the Office of Residence Life, but what is residence life? Obviously here we're doing Blue for housing, and so that's a lot of what we do. But talking about kind of being home away from home, our goal is to support students in transition. And so, as you as an incoming student are looking at coming to, embark in your academic journey with us, but also living with us, we are kind of specialized in trying to help make that a positive experience. We consider ourselves educators, do a lot of learning outside the classroom. And again, we're not talking textbook learning, taking notes, the things you're going to see in the classroom, but what it means to live with others, to learn and grow and kind of develop your own opinions, thoughts, hopefully have some good dialogue with your neighbors and people you're living with and around. And so, that kind of outside of the classroom learning. We work with student issues. As they come up, I often say that we're the Office of Residence Life. And so we are kind of where life happens. And so we very much try to embrace that and support through that. We have an entire campus full of resources and wonderful offices and colleagues that are here to support you. And so we often connect our students to those resources. And the housing process itself, we manage that piece. And one thing I think is important to know is that we live here too. There's a 24/7 on-call response There's always Residence Life staff on call, even to the point that I myself and Jen, who's joining here, you might know it's the same last name. We're actually married and happen to work at the same department, but we live here on campus, kind of near where the football field is, with our family. And so, we live here so that there is a response. If there were a crisis or a need, overnight or on a weekend, we do have staff that's on call and available, as well as there's 6 other professionals that live on campus. Okay, so talk a little bit about who we are specifically. We have our central office, the Office of Residence Life. There are 12 staff members in there, working with residential education and kind of the hall staffing piece, our actual housing process, managing our facilities, as well as our card center, which is your student ID function. There are 5 area coordinators, Jen being one of them, who's on this call, that manage an area of campus residentially, and supervise multiple buildings and kind of manage as full-time. They all have their master's degree. They might have spouses or partners that live with them, and are here kind of dedicated their career to your residential experience. In addition, we have 12 graduate hall directors that have finished their bachelor's degree. Most of them are looking to go into the career of higher education, and they live in each residence hall or apartment complex is supervised by one of our GHDs. And so they kind of manage the day-to-day of those facilities. And then we have 118 community assistants. We call them CAs. You might have heard other campuses talk about RAs. It's the same type of position, but their goal is to be, a peer leader that's kind of going through the same stuff, maybe a year or 2 older, but have an idea of what's available on campus and kind of help be that shoulder to lean on if you need, or someone to ask questions to if you're not sure exactly who to ask or what to do. So talking a little bit more about just kind of living on campus and our function. We're here, our goal is to make you successful, personally, academically, socially, and really have a successful experience here at Bloomsburg. We try to build a community that's focused on respect, respect for each other, respect for your neighbors, respect for yourself. And that's kind of the key to making it all work, with 3,000 of your closest friends living right here on campus. Want to talk about, as you are navigating this experience, making sure you're advocating for yourself. If you have an issue or a question or you're not sure, please ask those questions. Again, you saw all those staff members that we have that are here dedicated to your experience. Please make sure you ask those questions so we can help you while you're here. We have a ton of campus resources that are available for you as a student. You guys are coming to Bloomsburg to get that degree, to go make that big paycheck after you graduate, and that's awesome. That we have a wonderful academic array of programs, a great value for your money when it comes to higher education. And that's why you're coming here. But the truth is the faculty make up about half of our faculty and staff on campus. There's a whole nother half of campus that is here solely to support you. And all of you have seen what those bills look like. You're paying for it. So we highly encourage you to utilize those resources. If you're struggling or you need something, please use those services that we can offer. And as you transition to campus, it's a time of growth. It's a time of exploration. And so that can be challenging. That can be hard. If you're struggling, please reach out and let us know so we can help out. That's really kind of why we exist in the Office of Residence Life. Okay, so one of the biggest things about living on campus is living with roommates. We were live and I could see everyone. I'd ask this question and ask raise hands, but just think about how many of you are living with someone in your room right now. Some of you might be. You might have a sibling or some other person that's living with you. And if that's the case, that's going to really help you kind of understand that. But for a lot of our students, or if you do, it's different living with a sibling than living with a roommate at college. It can be a challenge, but can also be extremely rewarding. And so some of you might have picked your roommate and gone on through our system and been able to do that. And some of you might be having them assigned by us, and we'll use those personal information questions that you have on our housing system to try to, those are key factors that we know can really lead to some success as you're navigating that roommate experience. And the truth is, whether you've picked your roommate or it's been assigned by us, kind of sometimes has very little to do with whether or not it's a good, successful roommate thing. So if you're thinking, hey, I got my best friend, living with your best friend can sometimes be pretty hard, but it can also be extremely great. And if you're like, oh, I'm kind of nervous because I'm not sure exactly who I'm going to be living with, sometimes those can work out to be the best way to meet someone new or to have a real successful roommate experience. So communication is really going to be, as we talk about roommates over and over, that's our theme. Want to communicate early, communicate often. And sometimes it can be kind of hard. We can find it awkward as we're trying to talk about what our needs are, or what's bothering us, or things that someone's doing that kind of rubbing us the wrong way. But it's important to kind of have those hard conversations so that those expectations can be known and then kind of worked out. Things that we often see as causes of conflict are visitors, who's going to be in the room and when and for how long and how to work through that. Personal habits, study habits, sleeping patterns, kind of that time, how you manage your day, and where that's similar, where that's different with your roommate. Cleanliness, if you keep things very neat and your roommate kind of keeps things a little sloppy, that certainly can cause a problem. And then, just the idea of recognizing that when you live in a small room with somebody else, every choice you make potentially has an impact on your roommate. So trying to do all those respectfully. And pretty much that last bullet there, it all kind of boils down to making sure that you're trying to respect your roommate and that your roommate's respecting you. And as long as we kind of stay within that ballpark, we usually have very successful roommate relationships. As we think about, living with someone, sometimes I kind of laugh a little bit. Some people think they're going to go into it and they're going to meet their roommate and then you're going to be best friends and be, in each other's lives forever. And that can be the case and that can be wonderful, but sometimes it might be just someone that you happen to live with, that you communicate well with, and you kind of go about your life. I tell a story about my personal experience. My first year, I lived with my best friend from high school, and we still talk kind of, but we kind of fell out throughout our roommate experience, and it was just kind of tough to live together. So for my sophomore year, I decided to go with a random roommate, and I lived with a man named Scott, and I don't really know what he's up to anymore. But we were wonderful roommates because we could communicate well and kind of talk about what we needed, and that worked out well. Everyone in the room has rights to the space and do that, but also responsibilities as you look at making sure it's a positive experience for both you and your roommate. One thing I just want to make sure is that at no point does anyone have the right to demand a roommate move out. Based on what's going on. You can decide for yourself, but you can never decide for someone else, just as they wouldn't be able to decide for you. If we ever do run into an issue where there's discrimination and things that are discriminatory in nature as people are trying to work through a roommate issue, we're a very open, inclusive community, and Bloomsburg needs to be home to all our students. So we don't bend to any of that. And then, the responsibility here is to communicate your needs. Listen to others' perspectives, if your roommate's describing how they're feeling, and then just working towards a solution. If you do have issues, sometimes, a conflict can happen. Again, our staff is here to help. Our CAs are highly trained to be able to step in and coach you through any issues or directly work through, as well as our graduate hall directors, area coordinators. Basically we're here to help. Some steps that we sometimes take is something we call a roommate agreement. It's more like less a contract for everyone living in a space that can really kind of work through what expectations will be and everyone come to an agreement. Lots of times students can just do that on their own, and it can be very helpful. At times it might be a little bit heated, and during those times we can have our staff set in and actually do a mediation, can be a neutral third party to facilitate the conversation and come up with an agreement that kind of works for everyone. And it doesn't mean that everyone is always best friends at the end of that, but usually it's a pretty positive living experience. Most of our roommate conflicts, if we need to get involved, end there, and we really kind of move forward. But there is the possibility if it really isn't working out that we can do a room change. And just kind of as that works, one student can volunteer to move out and move to a new space, or both students can mutually agree. But again, kind of I said before, you can only choose for yourself. You can't choose for the other person, just as they couldn't choose for you. All right, so that was a little bit about just kind of, resources, and then just, talking about living with a roommate. And I know it seems a little heavy for the Zoom with Bloom session, but we just want to kind of hit that home because that's where some of the biggest stressors can come from living on campus. We have nice rooms, but again, sharing that smaller space with another person can certainly be challenging. So talking a little bit about our facilities. Really recommend, if you can, please go to our website. It's listed there. It's reslife.bloomu.edu. And it has tons of information on all of our facilities. We'll talk a little bit about where you'll find out where your assignment is and when that happens. But if you go to that website and look at our halls and apartments, it will have pictures. It will have all types of dimensions of furniture in the rooms. And floor plans, you'll really kind of be able to see a lot that's there. Highly recommend you check that out. A couple other things about things we offer within our facilities is we have dedicated custodial and maintenance staff that are there to respond to your needs. And so our custodial staff thoroughly cleans all our common areas, and honestly, they get to know students quite well and kind of become another sense of support within our buildings. Maintenance is there for keeping things well maintained, but also if there's an emergency, we'll respond 24 hours a day to things that are going on. We provide basic cable TV service. Again, on our website, you can find the channel listing and all those types of things. It's just included in your room fee. There's no extra charge or anything, as well as high-speed Wi-Fi that is in all of our campus buildings, but including our residence halls. Every residence hall room, and so think about our traditional residence halls, not our suites or apartments. We'll talk about those in a minute. But all of our traditional residence halls all come with a micro fridge provided in every room. So if you're thinking about having to get a mini fridge or a microwave or anything like that, no need. We'll provide that for you in the room. So you don't need to load that up, as well as we keep those units well maintained and clean. And so that's kind of a nice little bonus there. In Soltz, which is our suite building, we have full-size fridges and microwaves. And in our apartments, we have full-size kitchens. So full refrigerator, oven, stove, sink, cabinets, the whole thing. Just in our apartment buildings, if you do end up being there, you have to bring your own microwave. We don't provide those in the apartments. Ooh, sorry. And so in that, we have 7 traditional residence halls and some pictures of the Luzerne Hall there, and then a couple of our residence hall rooms and students. And so most of our first-time college students will live in our traditional residence halls. And so they're mostly double rooms with bathrooms on each wing. They're a great place to kind of share that first year experience, that first time to college experience with your peers. And certainly a great way to get to know people and kind of build on that. For some of our, maybe transfer students that might be a bit older, and certainly our upperclassmen students usually live in either our apartment complexes. There are 3. They're on upper campus, which is kind of near where the athletic fields are. And then there's Soltz Hall, which is the bigger picture there posted on that slide, which is our newest hall, which is kind of right in the center of campus of our suites. Talking a little bit about just kind of some housing and dining notes. So when you do sign up for housing with us, our agreements are for a full academic year. We do encourage anyone that wants to live with us for all 4 years. I'm biased, but of course, I think that's a wonderful thing. I think that living on campus is great. But just want to make sure that everyone knows it's not for a semester, it's actually for the full academic year. I'm going to briefly go into meal plans, but these get kind of in depth. So if you have more questions, you certainly can ask, but I'd also encourage you to check out our website, which go into it in a little bit more detail. But all residence hall students are required to have at least 10 meals per week. And that is because we don't have cooking facilities in our residence halls. Outside of that micro fridge that we provide, you're not going to be able to cook. And if you're living just off Easy Mac, you might need a little bit more there. And so we require that meal plan. We have traditional meal plans, which are, the number of meals per week, or block plans, which are for the whole semester, how many meals you can have. And that's just kind of the way that they're set up. Again, you can look on our website and kind of see those different ranges. There's also the opportunity to use some of our, our basic meal plan is based on Scranton Commons, which is our traditional kind of dining hall. It's actually on the bottom right-hand side of our screen here, where you swipe in, you eat until you don't want to eat anymore. It's all you care to eat. And then, you leave when you're full. And so that's kind of what our meal plan is based on. But we do have other options. We have a Subway on campus. We have Chick-fil-A, Qdoba, some other options. And some of those places allow what we call cash equivalency. So rather than it being all you can eat at Subway, they might give you a dollar amount. And I don't remember exactly what it is. And it changes slightly every year based on the fluctuations. But, say it's $5.50. Well, you have that towards your meal. And so you can use that towards what you want to order at Subway, but still use that meal for that meal period. All of our meal plans come with something that we call Flex, which is pretty much just a debit declining balance dollar amount that can be used only at our dining services. And so again, let's take that Subway thing and you wanted to get something that was $6. You had $5.50 in cash equivalency. You can put that extra 50 cents on Flex, and now you've had your meal for a meal slice plus 50 cents Flex. A lot of our students use the Flex to maybe grab a coffee at Starbucks or a snack or something like that on the way to class, in between classes, those types of things. So that can be helpful. All of our meal plans come with guest meals. So if you have someone visiting, you can swipe them in so that they can eat with you. And anyone that might have special dietary needs, that they're worried about making sure that they can eat and stay healthy and have their needs met. We do have a registered dietitian that's on campus that can work with you, as well as our dining facility. Will make sure to make sure you have what you need to eat, as well as a variety of things to eat, so that all those needs are taken care of. Okay, shifting gears a little bit away from dining, although this could also be for dining, is Husky Gold. And this is, again, a declining kind of debit system that's on your student ID card. And, students, parents, supporters can all go online and add money. And there is a cash machine that if you prefer to be able to add, direct cash in our card center office. But most students just add money online. And it's a way that you can kind of securely have money on your ID without having to worry about carrying cash or an extra credit card around campus. And you can use it at the bookstore. You can use it at any of our dining facilities. If there's a fee for something at the health center, if you need to mail something in the mailroom, it can be used for all of that. And working in Residence Life in our housing facilities, it's the only way that you can pay for laundry, in our residence halls and apartments. So there's some great directions in the laundry room. I won't bore you with those details, but basically that is the function that we use to pay for laundry as you do laundry on campus. Okay, hitting on a few notes just about living on campus. Safety, as a staff member within the Office of Residence Life, safety is always number one. We need to make sure that you as a student feel safe on campus and have the ability to do all the great things in a safe environment. All of our facilities are card access is our key. So your student ID is your key to everything. And so, in our traditional residence halls and some of our apartments and suites, the exterior door is locked with an online lock. Interior hallways, elevators are locked. And so you have to be a resident of that building to be able to get in, as well as obviously locks on room doors and then apartment and suite doors, in those areas. But all of those are safety measures, and they're only as good as the students that are using them. And so as you are living on campus, we encourage you to treat the environment as your home. Make sure it's secure. If you see a door that's propped, unprop it. Don't let people you don't know into the building. Making sure that you're entering and exiting only through the main doors, not using the fire alarm doors. Those doors are alarmed and should only be used during fire drills. We do fire drills twice a semester, and just to make sure that everyone can practice the evacuation process. In addition, we do safety inspections once a semester, where our staff will go in and just kind of check in and make sure that there's nothing in your room that looks like a fire hazard or something similar. If you do have any concerns ever, please immediately alert our staff, and we will respond, both ourselves as well as get any other safety personnel we need there to address it. Okay, next, looking at accommodative needs. If you are a student that you have a housing need, it's listed here on there, but under our Residence Life webpage, again, that's reslife.bloomU.edu, up in the upper left-hand corner, there's an accommodation request. You can fill that out explaining what your need is, and we will work with you directly, as well as potentially refer you to University Disability Services to make sure that we meet the accommodation that you need. Our goal is to make sure you're successful, and want to offer whatever accommodations you need to be able to have what you need. One thing that I just would make sure that is that in college we only know what you tell us. You might be coming from a K through 12 environment where you've had a IEP that's been in place, and it just kind of gets passed from school to school. So if it was in place in middle school and now you're in high school, that just got passed on. We don't know those things, and so if you don't tell us as the university through University Disability Services or us through housing, through that form, we won't know that you have a need, and we certainly want to help accommodate those. So just a kind of quick note on advocating there. Please speak up and let us know. All right. So housing assignments, I know you all want to know, where you'll live and who your roommate will be. If you have filled out your My Housing self-service application and filled out all your questions, you're all set. If you haven't done that, I would highly encourage you to go on to that reslife.bloomu.edu and go to the My Housing self-service tab and fill out your housing application and enter your just basically walk through the process. There's a full guide on kind of how to get through that that you can kind of have pulled up as you're working through it. So on June 1st, as you log back in, you also get an email reminding you to log in on June 1st. You will find your housing assignment. So it would be what building, what room number you're in, as well as any roommate or roommates. And so, for a lot of folks, that would be a double room with one roommate. For some of you, it might be in a suite or an apartment with more than one roommate. But whatever the design is there, all that information is there, as well as contact information. And encourage, when you get that contact information, that you be mindful of social media. Certainly, we know you're going to use social media to kind of check out who your roommate is, but know that not every post can actually look exactly like maybe that person. So highly encourage you to talk to them via phone, via video chat, if you have the opportunity to kind of see them in person, and really start building that relationship with the individual, not with social media accounts or their profiles, to kind of get that started. Once you have that information, we'll start talking a little bit about move-in and our move-in process. Our move-in goes several days. It's actually a full week, but for most incoming students, it's over 3 or 4 days. And that is to allow folks to kind of get in and be able to get settled without having wildly long lines around campus. The week of August 15th, so starting that Sunday, going through the entire till the next Sunday, but again, with new students being done by Wednesday, you can expect to have that be your move-in time. If any of you are part of the Jumpstart program, that move-in is actually going to be August 8th. And so we know that, but again, we'll have a schedule that we will get out to you, and it'll be available again in June. But basically, you have staggered check-in times. There might be a 2-hour window that, based on your housing assignment and potentially your last name, you'll know what day and time you're assigned to come. If for any reason that doesn't work for you, contact our office. Again, all our information is on our website, reslife.bloomu.edu, and let us know, and we will work to find a time that works for you, recognizing that people might have time that they can't get off work. But I would encourage, if you can stick to that day and time, please do, because we will have student leaders available to help you unload your car. It's a very great move-in process. I should say, if you are assigned to our apartments, you can move real close right up to the buildings. The parking's great there. But in our residence halls that are kind of scattered around by this portion of campus, you'll be able to pull up in front of the vehicle, in front of the building with your vehicle. We'll help get the car unloaded, get your student registered. It's a pretty quick, painless process, and then we get your vehicle moved to a designated parking spot, and then get everyone kind of reunited back in the room to be able to kind of unpack and get settled that day. So it's a little bit about move-in. As all of you coming in as first-time students, hopefully this isn't the first you're hearing about this, but we do have a 2-year residency requirement. And this is a decision that was made last fall, so that any new first-year students must live on for the first 4 semesters. And unless you are 20 years of age, for the beginning of your second year, or if you're commuting from home and your home address is within 50 miles of campus. And some people want to know why we're doing that, and it's really based on student success, as well as wanting to make sure we have a strong, vibrant on-campus community during that time. And so we've done a lot of research, and so students that live beyond the first year on campus have a higher GPA, higher graduation rates, are typically more involved, place a lot of value on that on-campus experience. And so, that's kind of some of the real positive things about living on campus for a second year or beyond, if you would like to. Kind of just rolling with that. We know we're talking about housing for this year. So kind of looking into housing for next year as a returning student. If you're going to be living in our traditional halls for the first year, you'll have access to be able to sign up for housing in suites, which could be a single all the way up to 4 students, apartments in 2, 4, 6. And early to mid in the fall semester, you'll start seeing information about that. Going to end with just some kind of tips that we have for you as you're kind of embarking on your journey here, and some thoughts of us from folks that work with students all the time living on campus, and really just talk about owning your experience. First thing is make good decisions. You're going to be faced with all types of new freedoms and exciting possibilities, but remember to just kind of stay true to yourself. Make decisions that you're going to be proud of, and they're going to help you be successful in all ways. Understand that every decision you make can have impact on others, specifically kind of looking at roommates and community members around, but also, on yourself and those, kind of around you, all encompassing. Highly encourage you to get involved, find your place here, find your kind of spot here at Bloomsburg. The more involved you are, the more happy you'll be, and then therefore the more successful you'll be. Really important that we will send you information all the time as a university, certainly within the Office of Residence Life. We will send you information, but it's your responsibility to read it. We don't know exactly. We can send it, but we can't make you read it. So just make sure you're paying attention to that, and that you understand it. By being a member of our community, you're agreeing to a lot of things, and we want to make sure that you understand those things. We usually communicate via your BU student email. So make sure you're checking that frequently, and from here on until as long as you're a student here with us. And I think it's also important to note that we will communicate directly with students, but you might have information that we communicate with you that you need to let your parents and supporters know. So make sure you come up with kind of a plan of how that's going to work. When you should forward emails on or of that, because lots of times you might need the support of someone else to kind of help you make decisions, or might be assisting in finances or those types of things. As you're working with those that you're living with, open and honest communication is always key, always number one. Deal with problems early. They don't just go away. Kind of the golden rule, treat others as you wish to be treated, and be ready to learn from others' experiences. It's amazing how much you will learn just about life, just by speaking with your peers, and kind of having just those shared experiences. Really amazing. And as you're coming to campus and you're excited about all those things, just remember to make BU your home. I truly believe it's a special place, and a place great for our students. There's all of our contact information is here, so it might be a good time to take a picture or write this down. But our office is located in Elwell Hall if you're ever on campus or when you do get here. But our phone number, our email is there, as well as encourage you to follow us on all of our social media platforms, as we do post information there, as well as send out emails. So, and in case you're curious, here's a picture of what our fall 2019 staff looked like. We did not take pictures like this in fall 2020 for this past academic year, because a crowd this size unmasked, just a different world these days. And so this is kind of what our staff look like. And so these are all our community assistants and our graduate level directors. And then at this point, I'm going to kind of turn it over. I can see that there's things going on in chat and we have some questions. So I'm going to ask Jen if you might help me kind of navigate through some of that.
One of the questions that we have is, when can we select our dorm?
That is a great question, with maybe, and I will always be honest and transparent, maybe not the best answer that you would want. So as an incoming student, you don't actually select what building you're in. We have some designated spots that are all over campus, and for our first time, freshman students, those are going to be in our traditional residence halls, and they're honestly spread throughout everywhere. Most of our traditional residence halls are primarily first-year students, but we don't actually allow a preference there. We just kind of randomly assign with everything, except there are some learning communities, if any of you are involved in that are assigned to certain areas, as well as our athletes often live in Elwell Hall because that's our 12-month building, in case they need to be here over breaks. Yeah, you don't actually select your building. We kind of assign that. Beyond your first year, as you go into your second year living on campus, and then any, beyond that, if you continue to want to live on campus, then you will be able to select not just your residence hall or your apartment complex, but you'll be able to select your exact room. And so kind of go from, we kind of make sure we place you in a good spot to you get to pick exactly where you want to be. All right, Jen, what else is there?
Another question we have is regarding fall sports. Do students that are athletes move in before August 15th?
I will defer to, your coach will let you know your move in if it is before. I believe off the top of my head, I believe that fall sports will move in just before the 15th. I think maybe even just the 14th of August, with the exception of football, which I think moves in a week before. It is all set up by whatever the coach's expectations are, and then they work with our office to determine when you would need to move on campus so that you can start practice. And again, which probably aware, but it's all designated by the NCAA regulations, and then anything that might be in the athletic conference as well. And so your coach will actually be the person that will communicate that directly. And then we work directly with each team's coach to make sure that works. So yes, all the move-in information we have is for folks that aren't involved in fall athletics or marching band or potentially other activities that will be moving in. If you do have a program like that, just talk to your coach or your director or whatever piece that might be. And so that might be slightly different. Good question, thank you.
We have a question regarding our learning communities. Actually, a couple of them. When do learning communities usually move in?
Yeah, so for our learning community students, you will get exact information on time and all that from your learning community, from our learning community staff. potentially our director, or Jen Hunsinger, who is our director of that program overall. But I can let you know that all of our learning communities will be moving in on that first day, August 15th. And so our learning communities get here a little bit early, to the beginning of that week, so that there can be some learning community orientation and some team building and things that happen. So we do know that learning communities will move in on the 15th.
Another learning community question is, are there learning communities for people who are undecided?
I will have to look, or I could encourage you to it's lc.bloomU.edu is our website. But we do have a exploratory for major learning community. Exactly where that's housed and how we're working through that, I'm not exactly up to date. Last I heard, and again, it's been a wild semester. They were kind of evaluating some of those pieces. But yeah, that is something that we offer. And if there's any changes in that, our first year experience office that houses orientation, learning communities, a whole bunch of things. I shouldn't start naming individual things. Will also be a great resource if you're looking to explore some of those things as an undecided student, for sure.
We have a question about Walmart shuttles. They've already figured out that we have them, and they want to know, does that run on a regular schedule?
That's wonderful. Yes, we do have shuttles that run, between parts of campus, being our lower campus and upper campus. We do have some shuttles that run to some off-campus areas where some of our upperclassmen live. But we do have twice a week a scheduled Walmart schedule that runs in the evenings. And so the bus will run from campus to Walmart and back. And so students can kind of get out to Walmart, which for those of you who don't know, it's one exit beyond where we are on Route 80. And so it's just a couple miles away. But certainly is a place where students can then get to some shopping and get things that they need. So yes, that it will still be the case. We will have that run throughout the school year. And it's posted. It's 2 days a week. And I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's certainly something that we will make sure that as you're coming on campus in August.
Okay, do we have any choice between the 2, 4, or 6 person apartments?
So I'm not sure if you are a first year student, current first time in college student, you won't be in an apartment, almost guaranteed. I say that because last year we would have said absolutely not, but then COVID hit, and so we spaced some students out. So we actually had a decent number of first year students in the apartments simply for the single rooms and to space people out. So I say that because never say never. If anything, this past year has taught us that. But it is not our design to have first time college students in our apartments. They're designed for more independent living for our older students. If you are a transfer student coming in, there's a possibility certainly that we would place you in a suite or an apartment. Just knowing that you might be a bit older and it might match the age group of the students that are in there. We fill those based on where there's space. And so if you are a transfer student and have a specific request, I would encourage you, the email that's up on the screen now, it's buhouse@bloomu.edu. You can email that and we can see, what we can do to try to honor that request. Looking at beyond this, the first year for, again, our kind of traditional right out of high school students, our first time college students, you will be able to pick exactly what kind of suite or apartment you would want going into your sophomore year. And so that is very much your choice. There's a whole system that will be explained that I could probably talk for a whole another hour about how we kind of work through that process. But that certainly will be an option for you to pick at that point.
There's a question regarding COVID and whether or not students will be required to quarantine when they get on campus for fall.
Okay, so this is a bit of a a question that I can answer for right now. And I will default to, we will communicate exactly what the needs are as we get closer to move in as campus, just knowing that right now things are looking very positive. We're planning on being fully open and you know, moving into a quote unquote more normal semester for the fall. So I'm going to answer the question, but I also just want to put kind of my caveat there that it could change. But no, you should not need to quarantine when we get to campus. What we will do is we will allow all students that move on campus will need to have a rapid COVID test upon arrival to campus. It's what we did this past spring semester, and it was very successful. And so students will have to have that test to be able to move on campus. And then once they're cleared, then they can actually come to our facilities and move in. If you have been vaccinated, you can submit that documentation prior to move in, and then you'd be exempt from the testing. But rather than having folks quarantine when they get to campus, we have decided to use the COVID testing. And just kind of answer a few more things that kind of go along that. We also are hoping to offer vaccines to students that have not been vaccinated yet, so that if they do, you know, have that rapid test to move on campus and would like a vaccine, our hope is to be able to offer that at that time. As well as we will be doing some surveillance testing around campus as we have been doing the spring semester. So students can randomly be selected to have to do a test just to kind of monitor, you know, student population. It helps us identify if we're having any issues and then address them and have students quarantine, you know, if they are positive or if they've had contact with someone that is positive. So it has been successful for spring, and I imagine that you know, our plans to continue that for fall, and it will just continue to kind of just keep everyone safe as we come out of this pandemic. For sure.
So we have a question regarding the benefits of learning communities and what's the difference between being in them and not joining a learning community?
Okay, so our learning communities are set aside to be a group of students that sometimes live near each other, but they don't have to. You know, they might live in the same building, but you don't have to live in that building to be a member of them. We have students that live off campus. We have students that, you know, commute, and students that live in other buildings that all might be part of, you know, where they are. But the idea is that they are based around either an academic interest or a personal interest, and students through that, they take at least one class together. They live near each other most of the time. And then they have a learning community mentor, which is just an upperclassman that has been in that program or a similar program before. That's kind of there to kind of help them through. It's just a way to kind of be more connected. There's faculty director of each one that usually teaches the class or at least connected with it. That kind of helps just kind of support and kind of bridge all those student experiences together. And so the benefit is just kind of, you know, getting more connected within that interest, whether that be an academic or personal interest. And so, you know, I guess that's kind of the benefits. If you're not involved in one, you're still involved in everything going on campus. It's not going to hurt you to not be involved in one. It's just those, you know, benefits of having that kind of inter cross connection. It's just different, or your zone to build. But, you know, it's not as if our learning communities, we don't take one whole floor and put all students from that learning community together, because we do want students to have neighbors that are doing different things and, you know, different majors, different experiences, different interests. So it is, you know, regardless if you're in LC or not, you're still going to be part of the larger campus community and engaging a lot of the same things.
If a student has been vaccinated, will they be able to submit their vaccine card to the university? And if so, who do they submit that to?
It will end up being submitted to our student health center with all the health forms that go along with kind of being a student. And I'm going to kind of leave my answer vague at that because I don't know the exact details, but I know that our health center will communicate that once we kind of have all that that roundup. Right now, to be very honest, we are in our last week of classes, going into finals next week, and our health center has been inundated with just trying to do all the preventative things, all of the managing students that are in quarantine or working through. So I know people are starting to work on the plan, but to be honest, it may be another week or two until they're really ready to sit down and kind of process a lot of that information. And so it will eventually be the student health center, but it might be a bit of time until we get that information out to you, you know, and I don't mean a long time, but maybe a couple weeks. And so look for that information from there. Or if you're not sure, you know, certainly feel free to call our student health center, send them an email, and we will work to get that to you for sure.
I think that catches us up with all the questions we currently have. But if you have any lingering questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat.
Okay, and as we're just kind of waiting here to see if anyone has anything, I will just say, you know, all our contact information again is on the screen here. You know, please never hesitate to reach out and ask us questions. Residence Life, we want to help, you know, support you all as you transition and start your journey here at Bloomsburg. Jen and I will stick around here for another few minutes. If any of you have questions, to feel free to stick around. But really appreciate you joining us this evening, and wish you all the best, and can't wait to see you here in August. Have a good night. Thank you.